Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, in this video I'm going to show you how to magnetise an Eldar Wraithknight, or at least how I'm going to magnetise it. Now this is the first one that I've built and magnetised, so you're literally going to see my thought process and how I do it. Now the main reason I'm magnetising this is so that I can have interchangeable weapons. That's the main priority. Potentially we might look at storage as well. And we're going to have a look at also making the model a little bit more posable, so just make it a bit more interesting. So first I clipped all of the bits off and I scraped them down, and I built the model as much as I could, basically waiting for it to be magnetised, and that is at the stage that I'm at the moment. So I have the total, all of the legs totally built, and there's no magnetising to do there. I haven't glued the body on yet. The body is pretty much fully done, but what I didn't do on my one is I didn't glue in the fins on the back. Now the reason I did that is not because I'm going to magnetise them, because basically make it easier to paint, because there's quite a lot of detail in here, and I just thought it'd be easier to glue them in after painting. Now I haven't glued the body to the legs yet. To be honest with you, I'm not sure at this stage whether I'm going to magnetise this or just glue it. To be fair, I'm probably going to just glue it. But what I want to do is get all the other bits magnetised, get an idea of the pose before I actually put it into position and glue it into place. And then if I really feel like it at the end, I may magnetise this. I'm not really sure yet. But that is my thought process. Now, because I'm potentially going to glue this to the legs, I have discovered over the years of modelling that one way to really make your models look different with the different weapon options, rather than having a body which maybe you can sort of rotate, is if you had the head rotating. Now, that really does make a difference. If you've got the head looking this way when he's holding one gun, and then you swap the gun over, he still has the same pose. But if you can rotate the head so it's looking the other way, it looks like a totally different pose. So that is what I'm going to do. So I haven't glued in this neck section, which is here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get this little piece of plastic. Now this is just an old cut up base, just got a little bit left. And basically I'm just going to glue a piece of this to the underside of this, enabling me to put a magnet onto that section there, of course with another magnet into here. That should basically let me just pop it on and rotate it round. Now there is a neck stem, which is, where is it, here. I'm actually going to glue that into place in actual fact, so I'm going to put the magnet into the bottom of the neck stem. Now of course I could magnetise the head onto there, but I think it's just going to be just as easy to magnetise the flat section, so I can just rotate the flat section rather than having to rotate this ball and socket section. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that, and I'll come back. Okay, so that's that section done. I basically glued a little piece of that base on, like I was talking about. I then glued a magnet on the inside. Now I will put a link to all the magnets that I get them from a UK supplier called Guy's Magnets, but all the sizes will be there, so if you're outside of the UK, at least will give you an idea of the sizes that you need to try to source. So yeah, I glued that one into there. I also glued one into the bottom of the neck piece, and I've glued the neck piece into the head. So this is still a little bit wet, but that's magnetising on there very nicely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue this into the main body, and then I'm going to move on to the next stage, which is going to be the arms. So the kit comes with all 4 arm options, so I'm going to basically make them totally interchangeable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this rounded section off and make it flat, enabling me to stick some magnets on there. So do a little bit more work and come back when I've done. Right, there you go. So I just glued this neck section in, and now the head is magnetised. And like I said, because it's movable, I'm going to be able to do a few different poses with it, which will be pretty cool when it's finished. So that is all done. I then went in and I cut the, I used my knife and just shaved it off until I got a nice flat piece. And I didn't go too deep, I went deep enough to see a little hole. This enabled me to put a little bit of green stuff in there. So when I stuck the magnet on with some super glue, it got a nice bonding. Now I've stuck a magnet on this side, and as I suspected, although the magnet was strong enough for it to stick, what was happening, it was slipping down slightly, which is pretty much what I thought would happen. But these are the most powerful magnets that I've got. I'm using 5x1mm magnets. So I had to come up with an alternative. You can probably see it there. I've got a little pin in there as well. So basically I drilled a little hole, put a paper clip in there, and I've drilled a hole in the just above the magnet. Now I actually green stuffed this magnet in at an angle because I wanted it, I mean if I just put it in straight it would be like down. I want it a bit more dynamic than that. But it works really well now. So the pin basically goes into the hole. If I can find it. There you go. And yeah, so it's magnetized and it doesn't flop down, and it's pretty much done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the other side here, put the magnet on and the pin, get another arm done, and I'll be back when I have some more done. Okay, so I've gone into this arm now, put the magnet and the pin. Obviously the pin is super glued into place, so let that dry thoroughly before you start doing anything else with it. And then over on this side, I've expanded what I can do now. So what I've done is I've drilled a couple of extra holes. I've got 3 holes now around the magnet, which basically means that I've got 3 opposable positions, which is going to be just quite useful really, just allowing me to have something a little bit extra. So I could have it there, or I could have it maybe at the back, like so. So I've got a few options now, and I've done exactly the same on the gun. So this is the Wraith cannon. Again, I've glued the magnet in there, 3 holes. I've angled the magnet to give me quite a nice pose, and once again I can have it in various positions. So that is that side done. Next up I want to move on to the arms for this side. Now first of all we have the sword arm itself. Now I'm sure probably most of you know I'm actually changing my sword for this backlift that I've made. I've since the last video put on some spirit stones on there just to make it a little bit more Eldar-ish. Now when I glued the arm together, what I did is I didn't glue the very edge of the bottom of the join, and this allows me to push the arm in, the hand in. Now I could of course magnetise that, but this basically, by just pushing it in, I can actually rotate this and angle it, which I wouldn't be able to do if I'd magnetised it. So that's what I've done there. That's quite useful. Also I can take it out for storage and for painting. So that's what I've done there. So I'm going to put a magnet obviously in the inside of that one and some pinholes. And the other arm, what I've done is I basically totally built this, apart from one little section which we'll come back to in a minute. And then there's the 2 gun options. So this is where basically all the other arms are just single arms, but this one we need to make interchangeable between the Wraith cannon and the Sunburst cannon. Now whilst yes we could magnetise this, in actual fact the fit on this is really good. So good that I'm not going to magnetise mine. Now if you do happen to have a kit which isn't as good fitting as mine, then all you'd have to do is basically cut that little tab off and put a magnet there, put some green stuff in the hole and a magnet in there, and then you can magnetise it. But I can't see any point in magnetising it because my fit is just really good. So that's what I'm going to do. Going to basically put the magnets into the joints, put the pins, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I've glued the magnets in. I've drilled the 3 holes in both arms. They're in slightly different positions, the holes, because I needed to have a different pose. But that's all done, that's all drying at the moment. So now I'm going to go back to this gun. There's 2 different pieces when you make them into the Wraith cannon stroke sun cannon. Actually there's 3 to be honest, because the sun cannon has this like finder scope thing, which I've actually glued mine on because I thought it was pretty cool anyway. And even if he had 2 wraith cannons, he'd still, I mean, there's no reason why he wouldn't have a finding scope on there. So that's why I've left that on. Just thought it looks pretty cool. But there's 2 other sections. There's the back section, and there's a choice of 2. There's that one for the sun, and that one for the wraith. Now, to be fair, there isn't actually that much difference, and although it would be fairly easy to magnetise them, I just don't think it's worth it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the wraith one, so that when I have the 2 wraith arms, they look the same. And I'm just going to glue it into place basically. I'm just going to leave that one on. It's still going to look just as good as if I had that one on. I mean, no one's ever going to tell the difference. So I'm actually going to glue that piece in. But there is another piece which sits in here, which is 2 totally different pieces. Either the small one for the wraith cannon, and then this one here for the star cannon. So I'm actually going to magnetise this section on, just to you know, make it actually look like the proper guns. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to just cut the little tab off with my pliers, and then just flatten that down a bit with my knife. Cut away from you, of course. Got a hard tab. As you can tell, it's so difficult to cut away from you. We all know that, but yes, cut away from yourself if you can. Okay, so that's that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a little hole with my 2mm drill piece, because I'm going to put a 2x1mm magnet in there. So I need to make sure it's central, but you know, I don't have to go too deep with this because the magnet's only 1mm deep, so it's quite hard to do this on camera. Okay, so just a little gentle drill. There you go. Just make that slightly deeper, I think. Okay, so I'm going to glue the magnet into there. There is a little hole in there anyway, but I'm just going to widen it out to put the magnet in there. And obviously I'm going to do the same for the bottom of this. So I'll do that and I'll come back. Okay, so that's that piece done. So I've drilled that hole, put the magnet in there, and drilled a hole in both of these sections. And put the magnets in. Now obviously no need to say really, but just a reminder that of course when you glue these magnets in, make sure they've reverse polarity so they actually stick. Now these are still drying, so I'm going to leave those to dry for a bit, and we're going to have a quick chat about the next stage, which is going to be the guns on the top of the body. Now what I've done for mine is I've put the little gun sections actually glued them in there, because even without the guns it still looks pretty cool with those on anyway. And then what I'm going to do is, or what I've done is I've built the guns, I've built the body section of the gun, and the section which is going to eventually magnetise onto here. And then you'll notice that all 3 gun options actually fit into the front section really well. There's absolutely no need to magnetise these at all. So that's brilliant. And then on the back section, and you do have an option, you could just maybe choose one of these and glue them into place. But in actual fact, once again, they fit in here fantastically well without having to magnetise them. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave mine just interchangeable, so you just push them in and out. All I'm going to do is magnetise the base there basically. But we're going to move on to that next. But what I'm going to do, when this is dry, I'm just going to show you this magnetising and the arm actually onto the body. Okay, so these pretty much dried now. So you've got the sun section, which goes on there, and then you've got the cannon, the wraith cannon. So that's great, interchangeable, and obviously these are all dried now, so let's have a quick look, show you the different poses. So you've got that one, and potentially I could have it maybe more in the upright position, like so, and even with the gun on there, that with that pin it just doesn't drop at all, so very happy with that, working really well. Okay, so next up we're going to magnetise these top gun sections. Okay, so I've done one, drilled the hole out, put the magnets in. On the other one I'm going to show you how I did it. So I used my 2mm drill piece. I went in quite deep. I want this to be quite strong, so I'm going to put 2 magnets in there. So what I did, I glued 2 magnets together, and then I've put them on my knife, ready to go in. The polarity is the correct way. I've then put in a little bit of green stuff into the hole, which will help make it stick. And now I'm going to get my super glue. Put a little bit of super glue into the hole as well. I'm then going to get the magnets, they're already into position, just push them in, slide the knife across, get some tissue, wipe the surplus glue, and then using your fingernail, because your fingernail generally doesn't stick to the super glue, just push it in, make sure it's in there nice and even, and there you go. Okay, so that's those 2 magnets done there. What I did, because these are an exposed magnet, I wanted to cover them up with some green stuff, or in this case grey stuff. So what I did, when I put the magnet in, I made them slightly deeper than the plastic, so I could put a little bit of green stuff in there and cover them up. When that's fully dry, I'll just file them down just to match them in nicely. And then on the weapons here, I've put a little magnet in the bottom, again using some green stuff to get a nice bonding, and they're now magnetised. And of course, although the scatter lasers are the ones that we're going to go for, you know, we've got all of the weapon options now available to us. So next, I'm going to look at doing the body onto the legs, because I think just for storage purposes, it would be wise to have these not actually glued. So I'm going to have a look at doing those next. Okay, so that's that section done. What I did, I glued a magnet into the bottom. And then I drilled a little hole either side to put a paper clip in. Now I put the paper clips in, one slightly higher than the other, so when it comes to locating the holes the other side, I can locate one hole and then push it in and then locate the second hole. So that's done, that's drying. And then of course in the body I just used my knife again, I flattened that down, glued a magnet on there with some green stuff, and then I've drilled a hole either side of that, and you'll notice that I've glued it at a slight angle because I want my body to be twisted round that way slightly. So yeah, that's all done, just going to let that dry, and I'll come back, show you the fitting. Okay, so that's everything dried. I've basically filed that down like I said I was going to, making that nice and flat, and just got the pins now ready. So just line up the first pin, and then line up the second pin, push it in, it goes onto the magnet, and it's done. So yeah, complete. Hopefully the tutorial was useful for you. I shall put up a few still pictures at the end so you can have a look at it all built up. Thanks for watching.